Hello there, wonderful viewers. Thank you for joining me today. If you're watching this, perhaps you're in your golden years like me. Or maybe you're curious about what life is like when you reach 70 and beyond. Either way, I'm delighted you're here. Over the past decade, I've noticed something about myself that I never expected when I was younger. I've become much more selective about who I spend my time with. Yes, that's right. At 70, I find myself deliberately avoiding certain people and situations. And you know what? It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. Now, this isn't about becoming antisocial or withdrawing from life. Quite the contrary. It's about understanding the precious nature of time at this stage of life, and making conscious choices that enhance our well-being rather than deplete it. Today I want to share with you 7 profound reasons why, at 70, I've become more deliberate about who I allow into my inner circle, and why you might want to consider doing the same. These insights come not just from my own experience, but from conversations with dozens of my peers who have found similar freedom in being more selective with their social interactions. So let's dive into these 7 life-changing realizations that have transformed how I approach relationships in my 70s. 7 reasons I'm more selective about people at 70. Energy conservation becomes essential. At 70, I've come to understand that energy is my most precious resource. Unlike in our younger years, when energy seemed limitless and could be replenished with just a good night's sleep, our energy reserves become more finite as we age. Take my friend Margaret, for instance. In her 60s, she would still attend every family gathering, community event, and social obligation out of a sense of duty. She'd drag herself to lunch with former colleagues she no longer connected with, and afterwards she'd be exhausted for days. Now, at 75, Margaret has learned to prioritize. She focuses her energy on her painting class and weekly dinners with her closest friends. Activities that energize rather than drain her. Compare this to my neighbor Frank, who still hasn't learned this lesson at 72. He continues to say yes to every invitation, sits on multiple committees, and attends events out of obligation rather than desire. The result? He's constantly fatigued, catches every cold that goes around, and often cancels plans with people he actually wants to see because he's overextended himself. What I've learned is this: every social interaction either gives energy or takes it away. At our age, we simply can't afford to spend time with energy vampires, those people who leave us feeling depleted and drained after we've been with them. Instead, we need to consciously seek out and nurture relationships with energy givers, those special people who make us feel more alive, inspired, and rejuvenated. Actionable advice: make an energy audit of your social circle. After each interaction, note how you feel, energized or depleted. Over the course of a month, patterns will emerge that show you clearly which relationships deserve more of your precious time and which ones might need to be limited. Drama tolerance decreases dramatically. Let me be frank, at 70, my tolerance for unnecessary drama has dropped to near zero. Life has taught me that most interpersonal conflicts are rarely worth the emotional turmoil they create. In my 50s, I had a friend named Diane who was constantly embroiled in some crisis or conflict. Her daughter wasn't speaking to her, she was feuding with her neighbor over a fence line, she was offended by something someone said at church. Each time we met for coffee, I'd listen supportively as she recounted these dramas in excruciating detail. I'd feel my blood pressure rise as I got pulled into her emotional whirlwinds, and I'd spend days afterward thinking about her problem. Now, I have a lovely friend named Ruth who is the opposite. At 82, she's experienced plenty of genuine hardships. She lost her husband, battled cancer twice, and had to move from her beloved home of 40 years. Yet Ruth never dwells on these challenges. When we meet, she speaks of her gorgeous garden, the fascinating book she's reading, or her granddaughter's latest achievement. She's not in denial about life's difficulties. She simply chooses not to make them the centerpiece of her conversations or her identity. What I've realized is that chronic drama seekers create stress that affects physical health. Studies have shown that prolonged stress can weaken the immune system, increase inflammation, and exacerbate age conditions. When you're 70, you simply can't afford to compromise your health for relationships that consistently bring chaos and negativity into your life. Actionable advice. When you find yourself involved in someone else's drama, ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year? If the answer is no, it's probably not worth your emotional investment. Gently redirect conversations toward more positive topics, or if necessary, limit time with chronic drama creators. Time awareness becomes acute. At 70, you become acutely aware that time is finite. This isn't meant to be morbid. It's simply a reality that brings clarity and purpose to how we choose to spend our days. My childhood friend Thomas and I have taken different approaches to this reality. At 73, Thomas still spends hours each day scrolling through social media, watching whatever happens to be on television, and engaging in gossip with acquaintances at his local cafe. He often complains about boredom and how quickly the days pass without meaning. In contrast, my friend Eleanor, who just celebrated her 75th birthday, approaches each day with intention. She begins her mornings with a short meditation on gratitude, carefully plans which activities will bring her joy or fulfillment, and has become comfortable declining invitations that don't align with her values or interests. I used to worry about missing out, she told me recently. Now I worry about missing and being physically present but mentally absent from the experiences that truly matter to me. I've found that Eleanor's approach resonates deeply with me. When we truly internalize that our time is limited, we become naturally more discriminating about how and with whom we spend it. We begin to evaluate social invitations not by obligation, but by the simple question, is this how I want to spend one of my precious remaining days? This doesn't mean becoming selfish or isolated. Rather, it means being thoughtful and intentional. I now prioritize deep conversations with loved ones over small talk at large gatherings. I choose activities that challenge my mind and nourish my soul over passive entertainment. And yes, sometimes it means saying no to people and events that once would have automatically received a yes, out of habit or obligation. Actionable advice. Before committing to social plans, pause and ask yourself, if this were my last year, would I choose to spend my time this way? This simple question can be transformative in helping you align your social calendar with your true priorities. Value alignment becomes non-negotiable. As we age, our core values often become more defined and more important to us. At 70, I find myself naturally gravitating toward people whose fundamental values align with mine, and gently distancing myself from those whose worldviews create constant friction. Consider my experience with two different book clubs. For years, I attended a neighborhood book club where discussions frequently devolved into political arguments and competitions over who had read the most impressive literature. I'd leave these meetings feeling drained and sometimes even angry, wondering why I continued to attend. Then a friend invited me to join a different book club, one focused on books that explore personal growth, compassion, and understanding diverse perspectives. In this group, members listen respectfully to each other, share vulnerable insights, and often leave having learned something new. The difference in how I feel after these two very different social experiences is remarkable. This isn't about surrounding yourself only with people who think exactly as you do. Diversity of thought is stimulating and valuable. Rather, it's about seeking companions who share your fundamental approach to treating others with respect, who value learning and growth, and who approach differences with curiosity rather than judgment. When our time and energy are limited, why would we choose to spend them with people whose basic values clash with our own? At 70, I've stopped trying to bridge unbridgeable gaps or change minds that aren't open to change. Instead, I focus my energy on deepening connections with those whose values create harmony rather than discord in my life. Actionable advice. Identify your 3-5 non-negotiable values, perhaps honesty, compassion, curiosity, or respect. Notice which people in your life consistently honor these values and which regularly violate them. Gradually reshape your social circle to emphasize relationships that affirm rather than contradict your core values. Health considerations take priority. At 70, health challenges become a reality for many of us. While younger people might push through illness for social obligations, we've learned that respecting our body's limitations is not selfish, it's necessary. My cousin Richard provides a cautionary tale. Despite his doctor's advice to avoid crowds during flu season due to his compromised immune system, Richard continued attending large social gatherings because he didn't want to disappoint others. Last winter, this led to a severe case of pneumonia that hospitalized him for weeks and affected his overall health long-term. Contrast this with my wise friend Helen, who is open with her friends about her health needs. She'll suggest meeting for breakfast rather than dinner when her energy is better, request restaurants where she can find suitable menu options for her dietary restrictions, and is comfortable rescheduling when she's not feeling her best. Her friends respect these boundaries because she's communicated them clearly and without apology. What I've learned from Helen is that true friends will understand and accommodate reasonable health boundaries. Those who pressure us to ignore our physical limitations or make us feel guilty for practicing self-care may not have our best interests at heart. This extends beyond physical health to mental well-being too. If certain social situations consistently trigger anxiety, stress, or emotional distress, we have every right, indeed a responsibility to ourselves, to limit these interactions or find ways to make them more manageable. Actionable advice. Practice direct, unapologetic communication about your health needs. Simple phrases like, "I need to leave by 8 p.m. to maintain my sleep schedule," or, "I'd love to join you but I'll need to bring my own food due to my dietary restrictions." The joy of deeper connections becomes apparent. One of the most beautiful revelations of reaching 70 is discovering how much more fulfilling deep relationships are compared to casual acquaintanceships. Quality truly does trump quantity when it comes to meaningful human connection. In my 50s, my social calendar was packed with networking events, large parties, and casual get-togethers where I'd make small talk with dozens of people I barely knew. I measured my social success by the breadth of my connections and the number of invitations I received. Now, I find more joy in a 2-hour conversation with one dear friend than in an entire evening of superficial interactions at a large gathering. My friend Arthur exemplifies this approach. At 78, he has deliberately cultivated a small circle of deep friendships. Every Wednesday, he meets the same 3 men for coffee, a tradition they've maintained for over a decade. "We've supported each other through illness, loss, and celebration," he told me. "These men know me better than anyone except my wife, and that kind of connection doesn't happen when you're spreading yourself thin across too many relationships." Research supports Arthur's intuition. Studies consistently show that it's the quality of our social connections, not the quantity, that most strongly predicts well-being in older adults. Deep relationships provide emotional support, cognitive stimulation, and even health benefits that casual social connections simply cannot match. This doesn't mean becoming a hermit or cutting off all casual friendships. Rather, it means being intentional about investing your relational energy where it yields the greatest returns in terms of satisfaction and meaning. Actionable advice. Identify 3-7 relationships that you want to deepen and make regular, intentional investments in these connections. This might mean scheduling a monthly lunch, committing to a weekly phone call, or simply setting aside time to write thoughtful messages. Be willing to be vulnerable and engage beyond surface-level conversations. Freedom from social expectations becomes liberating. Perhaps the most unexpected gift of reaching 70 is the growing freedom from social expectations and obligations that once seemed so important. There's a wonderful liberty in no longer feeling compelled to attend every event, maintain relationships out of obligation, or conform to others' expectations. My friend Judith embodies this freedom beautifully. In her younger years, she was always concerned about what others thought of her. She'd accept invitations she didn't want, wear clothes that were fashionable rather than comfortable, and generally make decisions based on external approval rather than internal satisfaction. Now, at 76, Judith has embraced her authenticity fully. "I've earned the right to please myself," she tells me with a twinkle in her eye. She dresses for comfort, speaks her mind respectfully but honestly, and has no qualms about declining invitations that don't appeal to her. The result? She's happier, more relaxed, and surrounded by people who appreciate her for exactly who she is. I've found similar liberation in my own life. I no longer force myself to attend noisy restaurants where I can't hear the conversation, stay at parties when I'm tired, or spend time with people who make me feel judged or diminished. This isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. And interestingly, when I honor my true preferences and needs, I'm a much better friend, family member, and community participant, because I'm bringing my genuine self to these interactions. Actionable advice: practice saying no without lengthy explanations or apologies. A simple "thank you for thinking of me, but I won't be able to attend" is sufficient. Remember that each time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you're saying yes to something that does. Whether that's rest, time with loved ones, or activities that bring you joy. Selective socialization as self-care. As I reflect on these 7 realizations, I see a common thread running through them all. Becoming more selective about who we spend time with isn't about withdrawal. It's about wisdom. It's about recognizing that at 70 and beyond, thoughtful choices about our social interactions are an essential form of self-care. The people we surround ourselves with at this stage of life have a profound impact on our happiness, health, and sense of purpose. By choosing to spend time with those who energize rather than drain us, who share our values, who respect our boundaries, and who engage in meaningful rather than superficial ways, we're not being antisocial, we're being smart. This selectivity also benefits the relationships we do choose to maintain. When we invest our limited energy in fewer, deeper connections, everyone wins. We show up more fully and authentically for those we care about, and they receive the best version of ourselves, rather than the exhausted, overextended version that results from trying to please everyone. So if you find yourself, like me, becoming more selective about your social circle as you age, know that you're not alone. This natural evolution reflects the wisdom you've earned through decades of life experience. It's not about closing doors, it's about being more intentional about which ones you choose to walk through. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Has your approach to social relationships changed as you've gotten older? Have you found freedom in becoming more selective about who you spend time with? Or do you have different wisdom to share about navigating relationships in your senior years? Please leave a comment below sharing your experiences or any questions you might have. Your insights could be exactly what another viewer needs to hear today. If you found value in this discussion, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more authentic conversations about aging with grace and wisdom. And if you know someone who might benefit from this message, please share this video with them. Remember, at 70 and beyond, we've earned the right to prioritize relationships that bring joy, meaning, and energy into our lives. Here's to making every social interaction count. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, be well and choose wisely.